the Druid. So, there are a few things I'd like to say before the video starts. Number one, very interesting view today, as it is extremely hot, and in the normal way that I usually record, which is to put the camera in my lap, overheats my phone drastically. So I'm compromising by using a piece of paper today. Secondly, as you probably just heard, I am getting over a little bit of a sickness, so any sort of clearing of my throat or coughing fits you may hear throughout this video, or any future videos, is just still me trying to get over being sick. So, with that being said, let's just say the following. I have only ever played Druid in two contexts. A very short form campaign that got dropped pretty quickly due to the Dungeon Master not showing up anymore, or in a few one-shots in which I never played a full Druid, I only multi-classed. And so you might be wondering, Brooke, if you've barely had any experience playing the Druid, how do you plan on reworking it? Well, I've read the rules, I've comprehended the rules, I understand the problems with the Druid, and so I would like to propose three different options for my rework of the Druid. And I will be creating a poll for this later on. I haven't decided when, but I will be creating a poll to dictate how I will be reworking the Druid in future endeavors for my system. So, option 1 out of 3. There are 3 different ways. Option 1, the full caster route. So, for the full caster route, what we do is we remove Wild Shape. We remove Wild Shape and anything associated with Wild Shape. And we make it a full spellcasting class a la the Cleric or the Wizard. And we basically make the Cleric and the Druid very similar in the sense that they are both leaders, where they are both meant to be supportive, healing, minor control characters. And so what we do is we take away Wild Shape, we keep the same number of spells that they have now, maybe less, not entirely sure on spellcasting entirely yet, in terms of the Druid, but basically at-will powers, encounter powers, daily powers, and then one-time use powers. And obviously they'll have their subclass at level 1 like everyone else, but with the full caster route, they'll get their powers similar to how the Cleric will, where they will get two at wills and 2 encounter and a daily at level 1, and then they will get an additional power for an equivalent level at the levels of my standard progression chart, which is 1 power per level, and it depends on what level you are, and you can choose whatever power from whatever list you want. So at 2nd level, you may have only encounter powers, but then once you reach 5th level, where you can pick 5th level powers, you may have access to an encounter, an at-will, and then maybe more dailies at 5th than anything, but you will get more powers as you level up. And all the powers will be spells, and some spells like Web and Goodberry and stuff like that will be toned down to make them not as prevalent in the Druid's arsenal. So that's option 1. Option 2 is what I like to call the Shaman/Summoner Druid, where we remove both the spellcasting and the Wild Shape, and we give them a new ability that allows them to summon druidic spirits or totems similar to a shaman, where depending on which totems or spirits you have active, you or allies gain different bonuses. So for a druid using spirits specifically, it would grant benefits similar to the Wildfire Druid, where only one person can benefit from the totem or from the spirit at a time. And you, as the druid, always have the benefits of the spirit, but only one other ally or creature that you target can have access to the effect at a time. Meanwhile, if you chose the totem would grant everybody in an area around the totem the benefits, but if you, as the druid, leave the range of the totem remains, but you no longer gain the benefits. So the spirit is more of a self buffer, and the totem is more of an area buffer, but they both have their own stipulations. Like, if you want to be a more selfish druid, you pick the spirit, and you benefit yourself and one other ally, which is good if you're going for more of the self-reliant druid. And the totems are good if you have a party that you've been with for years and you work really well together as not just players but as characters. You can go with the totem because you know that they'll protect the totem and they'll stay within the area in order to get the benefits of your totem. And as you level up, the powers you gain are equivalent to new totems or spirits based on which option you choose. And that option will be prevalent at level 1. So at level 1, whenever you pick your druid subclass, you'd also get a druid feature that allows you to pick either a totem, spirit, or maybe one other option that kind of combines the two in a minor form. Where instead of having the full area of effect of a totem, it has a smaller area of effect, but it also has the effects of the spirit, where it can benefit you and anybody within and allies, but it's complicated. It's hard for me to explain. But basically, totem will be stationary and will have a large area of effect. The spirit will be single target and be hypermobile, but then the in-between will be not as mobile, but also have a smaller area of effect. But that's essentially what I have in mind. And each power that you gain has an effect based on whether or not you chose a spirit, a totem, or the middle ground. And option 3 is we go full shapeshifter. We go full werewolf, lycan, whatever you want to call it. Where druids, their main class feature is shapeshifting. And we make everything about their shapeshifting, we take away their spellcasting, and we make them a ranged melee character. Like how Cyberrock of Cyberrock Opinions suggested it. Where in their normal race form, they are primarily ranged, where all druids gain an at-will power that makes it so that they stay at range. And once they enter melee, when they go into their shifter form, then they gain additional benefits like more health, more armor class, higher strength, yada yada yada. And their at-will powers change based on whether or not they are in their ranged or melee form. The best way I could describe it is if anybody in my audience has played Smite before, if you've ever played the Guardian Artio, she has a humanoid form that has a staff that is ranged. It's very short range, but it's ranged nonetheless. And while she's in this form, she has less resistances and is faster, but is also very non-mobile. She doesn't have any mobility skills. She primarily has control and support abilities, but then the moment she shifts into her bear form, she's mobile and she has damage and slight crowd control. She also gains more resistances and slightly more health. So that's kind of the ideas, where we either go full caster and just make them basically the same thing as the cleric, which a lot of people like to say, oh, but all classes in 4th edition are just the same class, copy and paste it. Kind of, yeah. That's what I'm going for here, is that the cleric is going to be good at one thing, and the druid is going to be similar to the cleric in that sense, where they are the same type of spellcaster, they use the same kind of spellcasting ability modifier. Their power lists will be different, the progression will be the same, but The difference is that the cleric will be more of a leader, like a leader defender, or maybe like a leader controller. No, probably a leader striker. And then the druid would be more like a leader defender or a leader controller. Then the shaman option, which is just a complete rework of the druid entirely, where we give them a new ability, new lease on life, completely devoid of the wild shape and spellcasting, give them a whole new way of playing that nobody's ever seen before. Or we focus on their shifting abilities and making those more prevalent. Either way, how would I go about implementing these? Well, for the spellcasters, I would make some of their for the spellcaster druid options, I will make their spells a little bit less impactful, so things like web and conjure animals won't be as impactful, because those are primarily big issues with their classes, that their spells are really, really strong. For the shaman rework, it will be their spellcasting will be removed, their shifting will be removed, replaced with something else, and depending on which option you choose at level 1, you gain different effects for each of your powers based on which form you chose, and certain forms, like the spirit or the totem, get different effects based on what level of druid you are. So you may get increased range on your totem, you may be able to summon an enhanced version of the totem, you may be able to summon more than one spirit at a time, the spirit may be able to target more than one creature at a time, stuff like that. And for the shifter class, basically wild shape would be its primary feature, and you would have almost unlimited uses of it, but each time you use it, it gets slightly more powerful, your form changes. You may also get a stat block that you can kind of fill out with whatever creature you want. So you choose between either land, sea, or air. And then you can choose the movement speed accordingly. You can choose an effect based on which animal form you chose. It's not going to be limited to beasts, so you can make yourself look like however you want. And spellcasting, all of their spells will be replaced with beast-like abilities. So web will now become spider web. Conjure animals will now basically be like summon brood, similar to how like a spider has a brood. Stuff like that. But yeah, later on I'll be putting up a poll to kind of ask you which one sounds more interesting to you. Full caster, shaman, or shapeshifter. So let me know.